Ananda said to the Buddha, World-honored one, I also have heard the Buddha discuss true appearance with Manjushri and the other disciples of the Dharma king. The world-honored one also said, the mind is not inside and it is not outside. As I now consider it, if it were within, it would see things it does not see, if it were outside, there would be no common perception. Since it cannot see inside, it cannot be inside, and since the body and mind have common perception, it does not make sense to say it is outside. Therefore, since there is a common perception and since there is no seeing within, it must be in the middle. The Buddha said, you say it is in the middle. That middle must not be haphazard or without a fixed location. Where is this middle that you propose? Is it in an external place, or is it in the body? If it were in the body, it could not be on the surface of the body since that is not the middle. But to be in the middle is no different than being inside. If it were in an external place, would there be some evidence of it, or not? If there were no evidence of it, that would be the same as if it did not exist. If there were evidence of it, then it would have no fixed location. Why? Suppose that someone were to indicate the middle by a marker. When regarded from the east, it would be to the west, and when regarded from the south, it would be to the north. The marker is unclear, and the mind would be equally chaotic. Ananda said, the middle I speak of is neither of those. As the world-honored one has said, the eyes and forms are the conditions which create the eye-consciousness. The eyes make discriminations, forms have no perception, but a consciousness is created between them. That is where my mind is. The Buddha said, if your mind were between the eye and an object, does the mind's substance combine with the two or does it not? If it did combine with the two, then objects and the mind's substance would form a chaotic mixture. Since objects have no perception, while the substance has perception, the two would stand in opposition. Which is the middle? If it did not combine with the two, it would then be neither perceiver nor perceived and would have no substance or nature. Where would the characteristic of middle be? Therefore, you should know that for the mind to be in the middle is impossible. Ananda said to the Buddha, World-honored one, when I have seen the Buddha turn the Dharma wheel in the past with great Maudgalyana, Subhuti, Purna, and Shariputra, 4 of the great disciples, he often said that the nature of the mind which perceives, makes discriminations, and is aware is located neither within nor outside nor in the middle, it is not located anywhere at all. That very non-attachment to anything is what is called the mind. Therefore, is my non-attachment my mind? The Buddha said to Ananda, you say that the nature of the mind which perceives, makes discriminations, and is aware is not located anywhere at all. The entirety of things existing in the world consists of space, the waters, the land, the creatures that fly and walk, and all external objects. Does your non-attachment also exist? If it does not exist, it is the same as hairs on a tortoise or horns on a rabbit. How can you speak of non-attachment? If non-attachment existed, it could not be said to be non-existent. To be non-existent is to be without attributes. To be existent is to have attributes. Whatever has attributes has a location, how then can it be said to be unattached? Therefore you should know, to call the aware, knowing mind non-attachment to anything is impossible. Then Ananda arose from his seat in the midst of the great assembly, uncovered his right shoulder, placed his right knee on the ground, respectfully put his palms together, and said to the Buddha, I am the Tathagata's youngest cousin. I have received the Buddha's compassionate love and have left the home life, but I have been dependent on his affection, and as a consequence have pursued erudition and am not yet without outflows. I could not overcome the Kapila mantra. I was spun around by it and sank in the house of prostitution, all because I did not know the location of the realm of reality. I only hope that the world-honored one, out of great kindness and pity, will instruct us in the path of Shamatha to guide the Akantikas and overthrow the Mlekas. After he had finished speaking, he placed his 5 limbs on the ground along with the entire great assembly. Then they stood on tiptoe waiting attentively and thirstily to respectfully hear the instructions. Then the world-honored one radiated forth from his face various kinds of light, dazzling light as brilliant as hundreds of thousands of suns. The 6 kinds of quaking pervaded the Buddha realms, and thus lands as many as fine motes of dust throughout the 10 directions appeared simultaneously. The Buddha's awesome spirit caused all the realms to unite into a single realm. And in these realms all the great bodhisattvas, each remaining in his own country, put their palms together and listened. The reason those who cultivate cannot accomplish unsurpassed bodhi, but instead reach the level of a sound hearer or of one enlightened to conditions, or become accomplished in outside ways as heaven dwellers or as demon kings or as members of the retinue of demons is that they do not know the two fundamental roots and are mistaken and confused in their cultivation. They are like one who cooks sand in the hope of creating savory delicacies. They may pass through as many eons as there are motes of dust, but in the end they will not obtain what they want. What are the two? Ananda, the first is the root of beginningless birth and death, which is the mind that seizes upon conditions and that you and all living beings now make use of, taking it to be the self-nature. The second is the primal pure substance of the beginningless bodhi nirvana. It is the primal bright essence of consciousness that can bring forth all conditions. Because of conditions, you consider it to be lost. Living beings lose sight of the original brightness, therefore, though they use it to the end of their days, they are unaware of it, and without intending to they enter the various destinies. Ananda, since you now wish to know about the path of Shamatha with the hope of getting out of birth and death, I will question you further. Then the Tathagata raised his golden arm and bent his 5-wheeled fingers as he asked Ananda, "Do you see?" Ananda said, "I see." The Buddha said, "What do you see?" Ananda said, "I see the Tathagata raise his arm and bend his fingers into a fist of light which dazzles my mind and my eyes." The Buddha said, "What do you see it with?" Ananda said, "The members of the great assembly and I each see it with our eyes." The Buddha said to Ananda, "You have answered me by saying that the Tathagata bends his fingers into a fist of light which dazzles your mind and eyes. Your eyes are able to see, but what is the mind that is dazzled by my fist?" Ananda said, "The Tathagata is asking where the mind is located. Now that I use my mind to search for it thoroughly, I propose that precisely what is able to investigate is my mind." The Buddha said, "Hey, Ananda, that is not your mind." Startled, Ananda leapt from his seat, stood and put his palms together, and said to the Buddha, "If it's not my mind, what is it?" The Buddha said to Ananda, "It is your perception of false appearances based on external objects which deludes your true nature and has caused you from beginningless time to your present life to recognize a thief as your son, to lose your eternal source, and to undergo the wheel's turning." Ananda said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, I am the Buddha's favorite cousin. It is because my mind loved the Buddha that I was led to leave the home life. It is my mind that not only makes offerings to the Tathagata, but also, in passing through lands as many as the grains of sand in the Ganges River to serve all Buddhas and good, wise advisors, and in marshalling great courage to practice every difficult aspect of the Dharma, I always use this mind. Even if I am slandering the Dharma and eternally withdrawing my good roots, it would also be because of this mind. If this is not my mind, then I have no mind, and I am the same as a clod of earth or a piece of wood. Without this awareness and knowing, nothing would exist. Why does the Tathagata say this is not my mind? I am startled and frightened, and not one member of the great assembly is without doubt. I only hope that the world-honored one will regard us with great compassion and instruct those who have not yet awakened." Then the world-honored one gave instruction to Ananda and the great assembly, wishing to cause their minds to enter the state of patience with the non-production of dharmas. From the lion's seat, he rubbed Ananda's crown and said to him, "The Tathagata has often said that all dharmas that arise are only manifestations of the mind. All causes and effects, the worlds as many as fine motes of dust, come into being because of the mind. Ananda, when all the things in the world, including blades of grass and strands of silk thread, are examined at their fundamental source, each is seen to have substance and a nature. Even empty space has a name and an appearance. How much the less could the clear, wonderful, pure bright mind, the essence of all thoughts, itself be without a substance?